What's going on, Bills Mafia? The 2025 NFL Draft is literally like a month away at this point, so I thought today would be a good opportunity for us to dive into a new 7-round mock draft. But it's not from us here at Bills Breakdown. We're reacting to Matt Miller of ESPN's new 7-round mock. Bills have 10 picks, and he made selections at all 10 of those slots, and we're going to react to all those picks that could be coming to Orchard Park come a couple of months. But if you guys want the Buffalo Bills to crush the 2025 draft, go down below and smash that thumbs up icon. Like today's video so we make sure we don't jinx it and Brandon Beane and company go out there and smack this 2025 draft. All right, the Bills on the clock at pick number 30, and they're not going Kenneth Grant. Thank God, a new mock without the Michigan D tackle, even though he would be a great pick. The Bills go out and select Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos. And this is a guy who spent a lot of time at Alabama, spent the last season out there in Oxford, Mississippi, and he could be the Bills' next big thing at that outside cornerback spot. Here's what Miller had to say on Amos. He said, Buffalo needs more help in the secondary, and Amos is one of my guys in the draft. He has size, 6'1", 195 pounds, and speed, 4.43 in the 40, and it shows on tape. He executes in-phase coverage and has the skills to be an exceptional press cover cornerback. Amos bounced around in college. Ole Miss was his third school and is a bit raw, but there's a playmaker who notched 3 interceptions this season. He has the potential to be the Bills' future CB1 and a long-term building block. And I think this is a good opportunity for Buffalo to address the secondary. I would love to see a real outside cornerback selected at this spot because thinking about what Buffalo has in their cornerback room right now, they still have yet to extend Christian Benford, which I do expect them to do here in the coming weeks. But this is a player who we can kind of wash away the Kaiir Elam pick and go start fresh and go try their hand at shooting another dart at drafting an outside CB. And he's put up the stats to prove it. 16 PBUs out there in the SEC last year, allowed a QB rating of 54.5. That's really, really solid. And this is a guy who has gotten better as his career has gone on. Obviously, he was at Alabama in 2023, and then there was out there playing for the Raging Cajuns in Louisiana in 2021 and 2022. And just with more opportunity, he has excelled. I mean, you could see the numbers across the board go up immensely in 2024 when he was playing for Lane Kiffin and company out there in Ole Miss. And this is a guy who I really think could slot in and be an immediate starter in Buffalo's cornerback depth chart at this point. I mean, you signed Dane Jackson in free agency, but does anybody in the Mafia really, really want Dane Jackson to be their day one starter on the outside? I mean, he's an all right guy, but this is a guy who's got massive potential to be the cornerback one of the future, and I think that there's a good possibility that they go this route early on in the NFL draft. But there are rumors about Buffalo wanting to move up in round 1. Be Brandon Beane for me down in the comment section right now. Should the Bills go see if somebody's out there to find a trade partner and trade up for a more blue chip prospect in the first round of the NFL draft? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Moving on to round 2 now at pick 52, because the Bills have 2 selections in the second round. The Buffalo Bills select Texas safety Andrew Mukuba. This is another guy who has bounced around the SEC a little bit and is just a do-it-all safety there on the back end. Matt Miller had this to say on Mukuba. He said, a safety with awesome instincts and coverage recognition. Mukuba thrived as a deep safety this past season, grabbing 5 interceptions and showing playmaking skills. He hits harder than his 5'11", 186-pound size suggests, and has closing speed 4.45 in the 40 with fast processing skills. He's the rare safety who is aggressive but poised enough to not take himself out of plays and bite on misdirection. Mukuba could serve early as a reserve behind Damar Hamlin early on. And that's kind of, I would hope that he doesn't serve as a reserve behind Hamlin and ends up starting over him, because I think that Buffalo's secondary at this point is the weakest part of their defense. Clearly, you have a front 4 that is pretty solid right now. Maybe you need to add another D tackle there in the trenches, but you got good pass rush. You have a really, really good group of off-ball linebackers as well with real depth at that spot. But the secondary is something that needs to be addressed. I'm not so sure that I want Damar Hamlin starting 17 games, and I know safety isn't a position that you spend super big funds on, but I'd rather get a guy on a rookie deal like this who has the opportunity to be a lot better than Damar Hamlin. This is a guy who's straight up covering a whole half of the field on that back end. A lot of QB rating of 12. A QB rating of 12 is absolutely insane for a safety. Had 5 picks, so he knows how to turn the ball over. And this is another guy who has only gotten better with time as he's gone through his collegiate career. And keep in mind, he played for an elite defense in the Clemson Tigers for 3 seasons, then came to Texas and really became the player that is getting him billed as a second-round pick in this draft. I like Mukuba. He's athletic and he hits really hard. It's somebody who I think could fit very, very well with the identity of the Buffalo Bills. Sticking in round 2 now, though, this could be the steal of the draft. We'll talk about that more in a second. But the Buffalo Bills at pick 62 go out there and select Jayden Higgins of Iowa State. This is the big body receiver who kind of provides a little bit of insurance for Buffalo if Keon Coleman isn't the guy that they want him to be down the stretch. I still have a little bit of reservations about Keon Coleman. Miller said this. He said, with quarterback Josh Allen getting a big money extension, drafting young players for him to throw to is smart roster management. Higgins is a true X receiver at 6'3", 215 pounds, and has the ability to consistently win on breaking routes underneath. Put him in the offense with Khalil Shakir in the slot and Keon Coleman working outside, and the Bills have a trio of young, talented players for the 2024 MVP. And to be quite honest with you guys, like, this guy could be the steal of the draft. Like, I was just in the Chat Sports office earlier when I was scripting this video out, and guys were telling me that he's the second best receiver in this draft behind Travis Hunter. Like, he's better than Ted McMillan. This guy could be somebody who's creeping up into the first round. So maybe it's even something that Buffalo goes out there and targets at pick 30 if he continues to rise in the pre-draft process, because he has put up the numbers to suggest that he can be an elite pro. Only 2 drops in the entire 2024 season on 130 targets. So this guy was getting peppered out there in Hilton, and 1,100 yards on the season, nearly 1,200 yards. He was a first down plus every single time, can make big plays. And on Buffalo's wide receiving room right now, they don't really necessarily have a guy who has that underneath route, specialty. You got Josh Palmer on the outside, who's that kind of sideline route runner, can run a full route tree. Keon Coleman's more of that vertical threat. And then Khalil Shakir, obviously, we know, can ball out in the slot. But this guy, Higgins, man, like, he can kind of do it all. He can get down the field, he can come underneath, and when the ball's in his hands, he can make moves. So if this is a player that ends up falling in the draft and people just aren't seeing the stardom that this guy can provide on an NFL team, Buffalo could scoop him up in round 2. That would be absolutely massive. Could be a featured player in the offense very, very early on in his NFL career. So here are the Bills' first 3 picks of the draft, the 3 most important ones. Let's not doubt about it, because they do not have a 4th-round pick in 2025. So grade the first 3 picks that Buffalo's made of Trey Amos, Andrew Mukuba, and Jayden Higgins for me down in the comment section. A, B, C, D, or F. I'm trying to hear what Bills Mafia thinks about Matt Miller's first 3 picks for Buffalo. Moving on to round 4 right now, the Buffalo Bills select South Carolina edge Kyle Kennard. And this is a player who has also put up a ton of production in college after making a big-time transfer. But what stuck out to me is that he is a speedy edge off of the line of scrimmage, man. Like, he isn't going to wow you with his size, but as far as what he can do getting off of the football, ran a 4.7 40-yard dash, which ranks very, very highly among edges. His 10-yard split was awesome as well, and pulled out a full RAS score of 8.3, which is exceptionally athletic. And he put up the numbers out there with the Gamecocks to support how well he can get to the quarterback. 11.5 sacks in 12 games last year, and was able to kind of create turnovers as well. 3 forced fumbles, 2 recoveries himself, 39 pressures. I love what I'm seeing out of this kid. And, we're really seeing a trend now of Miller selecting players for Buffalo that have kind of gone different places. The guys who started in one school, maybe played at multiple schools, and then ended up having their most production at their last stop and really rising their draft stock in 2024. I mean, just look, he's absolutely improved in every single aspect, nearly doubling up his sack number. He's nearly doubling up his pressure number as well and creating turnovers. I love what Buffalo can get out of Kyle Kennard. And you know what? They need to add some more depth at that edge spot, as Joey Bosa isn't the most healthy player as we've seen over the last couple of years. Now moving on to round 4, and Buffalo goes back to the offense here with Devin Neal, the bruising back out of Kansas, man. I've watched Devin Neal a couple times this season, and he's balled out. I watched him in that Colorado game. He would not go down, and that's the type of player he is. When contact's made, he's just going to shrug him off and keep those feet churning. A career, 6-yard to carry guy for the Kansas Jayhawks, and somebody who has kind of been a part of this new Kansas identity, kind of made them a more respectable program over the last couple of seasons, and he's only gotten better with time. This feels like somebody who was ready for the NFL draft back in 2023, and with a really, really deep running back class in 2025, doesn't seem like he's getting enough recognition that he deserves. Like maybe in a year like last year or the year before, this guy could be getting talked about as a second or third round pick. But with as much running back depth as there is in this NFL draft, I mean, Neal is a player that, Buffalo probably can't pass up on if he's there in round 4. Also provides really, really good versatility in the receiving game as well, even though that wasn't his overall, thing that he was going to every single time. They ran him between the tackles a lot out there in Lawrence. Now moving on to round 5 right now. The Bills select Texas defensive tackle Vernon Broughton at pick 169. So we're traveling all the way to pick 169, where the Bills will now have like 4 picks in an 8-pick stretch. So maybe we could see them end up packaging a couple of these to maybe move up and to grab a pick in round 3 potentially. But Vernon Broughton is an absolute dog as far as what he can do getting to the quarterback and stopping the run. A very versatile defensive tackle in himself. 32 pressures for a defensive tackle in 2024. Yeah, sign me up for that. This guy can do it all. And just another big body that I think Buffalo could use in the trenches there, especially with the suspensions that you have for Larry Ogunjobi, Michael Hecht, guys who aren't going to be out there on the defensive line very early on. Look to Broughton here as somebody who Buffalo could target in round 5. Just 1 pick later, we're going back to back. The Bills select Oregon linebacker Jeffrey Bassa. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't know much about Mr. Bassa coming into this video, but just another guy who can get it done both in the tackling game and in the open field as well as in coverage. I mean, he only had a sack and a half. This isn't going to be a guy who's, pressuring the quarterback a whole heck of a lot, but he's going to be that green dot guy roaming around the field. And he had 2 PBUs last year, was able to hold his own in coverage, had 54 tackles, so a little bit of a drop-off from 2023, but still a very, very productive player on, Oregon linebackers. Like, they usually know what they're doing, and hey, who knows? Jeffrey Bassa could be a pick out there in round 5. Now, 3 picks later, here we go. This is this little stretch. I really do think that Buffalo might end up packaging a couple of these picks together. But Zy Alexander out of LSU, the cornerback, is also on Buffalo's draft board per Matt Miller at pick 173. And, he put up pretty solid numbers, as a coverage cornerback in 2024 with the LSU Tigers. Allowed less than a 50% completion rate, allowed a QB rating of 53.2. Only allowed 2 touchdowns, which can be concerning a little bit, but he made up for it. Creating 2 turnovers, had 6 PBUs. So LSU defense was solid, but Zy Alexander, I don't know too much about him, but good depth at cornerback. Buffalo needs to keep adding in that area. Now moving on to round 6, pick 177. The Bills select Virginia safety Jonas Sanker. And another thing about these kind of picks is you're looking for depth now. And where does Buffalo lack depth on their defense? In that safety room. And they've been going young there over the past couple of years, drafting Cole Bishop early on last season. And you have a guy like Taylor Rapp who's been injured before and is injured right now. You have a guy in DeMar Hamlin who's missed time. Go out there and go get yourself more depth at positions that you just don't have it at right now. I like this pick for Buffalo, drafting a safety out there late in round 6. Moving on to another pick in round 6 is Buffalo. This is the last one. They select Pittsburgh tight end Gavin Bartholomew. And I'll be honest, I don't know much about Mr. Bartholomew here, but hey, another position group for Buffalo that doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of depth at that tight end spot. And you know what? If Dalton Kincaid doesn't take the leap that we're all hoping he does, maybe this is a guy who just blossoms in camp and ends up impressing a lot of people, and Buffalo could get a real steal out there in late round 6. So let me know down in the comment section. We went through all 10 selections for your Buffalo Bills per Matt Miller of ESPN. Who is your guy? Who is your dream Bills draft pick? I want to hear from all the members of Bills Mafia down in the comment section. So let me know who you would really, really want to see Buffalo come away with from this draft with. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well. We just passed 3,000 subscribers here on the Bills Breakdown. I can't wait to bring you guys more Bills content here on the channel. So lock us in. YouTube.com/Bills News. Go down below, hit that big red sub button. Totally free Bills coverage every day. We'll see you guys all in the next one. And as always, go Bills.